So I would like to introduce Mary Russ from the White River Partnership. She has organized many river cleanups, and she'll be starting this presentation with and going through all of the how-tos. I am with Ann Ingerson at the Watershed United Vermont, and we are a network of all watershed groups in Vermont, and I'll talk to you about registering your event for the Vermont River Cleanup Month. And then we have a couple experts on the phone as well. Ann Smith, the director of Friends of the Wanooski River, as well as Kelly Sterrell will be joining us. She is the director of the Black River Action Team, and both of them have organized many cleanups and will be joining us for the question and answer, and if they have any thoughts that we skipped over they want to add. So we wanted to give them a chance to interact with you all because they have a lot of expertise. So without further ado, again, thanks for joining, and I'll turn it over to Mary.
Great, thanks. All right, so
I have to record it.
I started that. Okay.
And we are recording, so.
And learning as we go. Okay. So I just want to talk through sort of the most basic steps of organizing a river cleanup. I know most folks who are on the phone have organized events before, and I want to say that river cleanups are, follow all the same guidelines as organizing a tree planting or organizing a site visit for an education event. So hopefully all of these steps seem familiar even if you haven't applied them to river cleanups before. And I've broken it out into 5 steps to keep it straightforward. So creating, recruiting, prepping, coordinating, and wrapping up. So I'll just launch right into how to create a cleanup. I start with picking a site. And by that I mean, where do you want to clean up? Do you want to clean up one river access site, which is probably the easiest way to start? Or do you want to clean up multiple sites? We pick sites that are river access sites because by September there's lots of trash left over from recreational use. So unfortunately there's a need for most river access sites to be cleaned up. So I have here as a photo the sites we're going to clean up in September on the 12th. But also when I think about sites, I think about where's the event itself going to take place. So sometimes you want to clean up a site, but there's not great parking, or there's not a great place for folks to congregate, and you might actually have folks meet nearby and walk to the site. In our case, folks are meeting at Vermont Law School. It's a great parking lot by the river where we can not only start the cleanup, but we can end the cleanup and pile the trash and take great pictures. So there's the cleanup site selection, and then some thought about whether that site can actually also be the event location itself. Picking a method. So again, if you've got one site, you may be able to have folks park there, meet, walk out, get the trash, and it's very straightforward. You might have multiple sites, and it's easiest to drive to each site, or you might want folks to be able to boat between sites. Walking is the easiest, again, if you just wanted to get an event together quickly for September, which I think is very doable in the time frame that we have. Picking one site where folks walk to pick up the trash is the easiest. Again, just to use an example, our Royalton cleanup, we're cleaning up about 9 river access sites in the town of Royalton, and folks will drive between sites and bring their trash back to Vermont Law School. So that's our combination method for this particular cleanup. And then finally, picking a day and a time. I usually start with whatever day is convenient for me, and then I start sort of working from there. So I also take into consideration the hours of our local transfer station, and they're open on Saturdays until 1. So I usually do a 2-hour cleanup in the morning because I know we can not only do the event, but get the trash to the transfer station that day. So when I say 2 hours, we also try to do a non-mealtime hour, so 9 to 11 or 1 to 3, so folks aren't expecting a meal when we advertise refreshments. So that's the basics of creating an event. There are millions of different ways you can do this. Certainly no right way, but that gives you an example. So step 2 is recruit. So once you have good idea of sort of what the event will look like, you can go out and invite people to participate. And I've broken it into sort of two types of participation. Partners are folks who are doing something more than just showing up on the day, grabbing a trash bag and cleaning up. So folks might help provide event supplies. Katie will talk a little bit later about some free supplies that are available if you register your event in advance. Also under that category could be refreshments. So someone could simply show up with a gallon of cider and a bag of cookies, and it's something you don't have to worry about. So think about all of your event supplies and asking folks to help with that. Event coordination, I think this is really one of the most important pieces of a river cleanup. And having someone physically at the site for the entirety of the event is a really important task. They may not do a whole lot, but simply being there to answer questions and to make sure the event runs smoothly is a really crucial role for someone to play. And really anyone is qualified to do that feels comfortable and has the time. Transporting the waste to wherever it's going. People with pickup trucks are your friends during river cleanups. We've also asked town road crews to provide a truck. They park it and then take care of it later. So that transportation piece is a great partner option. And then funding. Katie's also going to talk about some funding that's available, but there are groups who are willing to put up $50 to $100, which can go a long way to getting rid of a lot of trash. So reaching out to folks about those roles is sort of the recruitment phase. And then for volunteers, you want folks to come out and help out. So registering the event helps, get it advertised at a very broad level. We like to conduct outreach to local groups. We go talk to the select board and the conservation commission in the town. And of course, I know all of you have relationships with your local community, so there may be a business or a scout group or even a school group that wants to come out and help. And as long as they know about it and have some lead time, they typically show up. Putting a press release in the local paper, putting the event in the calendar listing both on your website and on local media outlets is a great way to get the word out. And then I know the Source to See has a great event poster that we try to post around town. American Rivers may as well. Or you can create your own, just to put something out there for people to learn about the event. Prep. So everything's in place. You know the date. You know who's going to come help. There's still a little bit of work that needs to happen before you show up on the day. We like to print forms, so they're waiver forms that we use. We're in the Connecticut River system, so the Source to See forms are what we use. For multiple site cleanups, we usually have a map and instructions about what to pick up and what to leave, safety tips, stuff like that. And then it's a great way to tell folks about the other work that you do. So we try to have some organizational information printed up and ready to go for the event itself. Supplies, I mentioned that before, is something you can ask for help with. This is our typical supply list. So gloves and trash bags, clipboards and pens. For the waiver forms, we have this is a picture of our rickety table that we use for all of our events, but it's just the right size, and it's really lightweight. You can throw it in any car, and we put everything on it, including the refreshments, which is nice at the end of the event. Our sign and duct tape. Duct tape is, always good to have in the car. We do bring a first aid kit, and it's unfortunately had to use it a couple of times. And then a cell phone, just in case of emergencies. That's kind of our short and dirty list of what we bring. And then coordinating the event itself. So I put setup as a separate bullet. We show up about 30 minutes in advance, just to make sure we're on site when folks start showing up, and we're not trying to set up our table and whatnot as folks arrive. Signing in, again, as people come, it's usually not an organized arrival. Having folks sign the waiver and try on gloves and get bags can take some time. So that sign-in process is sort of the first thing that you do when folks arrive. And then once you have a nice group of people there, or that sort of time to start has come and gone, we try to do a welcome, thank folks for coming, explain what a river cleanup is, give some instructions about how the day will go, if folks are walking or if they're driving, making sure they know how that works and where to take the trash and what resources are available to them. And then safety tips. So depending on your site, there may be some site-specific things that you want folks to know. The main stem of the White River is covered in poison ivy, for example, so we like to tell people about that and let them know about the first aid kit in case that comes up. So each event will be a little bit different there, but safety is something that we do mention. And then the cleanup itself. Folks, once they're ready to go, they disappear and go off and clean up. Typically for the event location, people come in and out as the event goes on, so having someone there to answer questions or hand out more bags or provide advice about what to leave, car parts in the river, things that are hard to get to, or things that they have a question about being hazardous or not. So someone sort of being there to answer those questions. As trash comes in, we like to sort it. You get volunteers helping out with that. Most of what we pick up is recyclable these days, so it's sort of worth your while, I think, to try to sort trash anyway. Taking photos of folks in action, of the pile of trash as it grows, of all the volunteers at the end of the day, sort of posing by the trash is fun, and then filling out the trash tally once all the trash has come in, sort of comprise what the cleanup is about. And then finally, wrapping up. So everyone's happy, they've gone home, they want to come back next year. You still have to dispose of the trash. Hopefully the person with the pickup truck is helping you get it to the site, and the site is open and it's conveniently happening all in one day. Sometimes you're left with things that aren't as easy to dispose. There's a tire program that Katie will talk about where if you have a lot of tires, someone might come and pick them up for you, which reduces the need to actually have to pay for that disposal. And I have other there. We usually have a big pile of scrap metal at the end of our events, and people we call and they come pick it up because scrap metal is, depending on the day, can be, get some money for it. So that's something that we never paid or take to the transfer station because other folks want it. So you'd be surprised at what you might have to deal with, and just making time for that and having a plan is good. And then submitting the forms. Again, Katie will talk about how that works. But typically, again, we work with Source to see they want the waiver forms and they want your trash tally. We scan them in and email them, so it's really easy to do. And then this year, there's some money for trash disposal costs. And Katie will talk about how Watersheds United Vermont is going to run that program. And then finally, celebrate. So people love to see these photos. Volunteers love to get thanked. So make sure you share your photos. We throw them up on Facebook. We submit a few to the paper. And then sharing the accomplishments. There's usually some pretty nice numbers associated with cleanups. How many volunteers, how many pounds, how many miles of river. It's a good story, and it's engaging for folks to read about and also to be thanked for. So I'll stop there. That sort of wraps up what I think comprises a basic river cleanup. And as Katie mentioned, I'm happy to answer any questions you have at the end.
Great. Thanks, Mary. So as most, if not all of you know, September is Vermont's River Cleanup Month. So Watersheds United, is working to coordinate the events that are on the ground. And so we're working with American Rivers and the Connecticut River Watershed Council, which hosts the Source to See event. And rather than just reinventing the wheel, we're trying to coordinate the efforts that both groups are basically registering. And so on our website, Watersheds United Vermont, or watershedsUnitedVT.org, we have the registration place. So once you get to our website, then you'll click on the left-hand side where it says Vermont River Cleanup, and that will bring you to this page. And you can send any volunteer who's interested, if anyone you come across in the state of Vermont, but you could also direct them to your site specifically. But when you as the organizer, you're going to look at this second picture and click on that. And that will bring you to this page for organizers. And this has a host of resources that are compiled from the resources that have been published by American Rivers as well as the Source to Sea. And you will register with either American Rivers or Source to Sea, depending on where you are in the watershed. So American Rivers is taking any event that's not in the Connecticut River watershed, and it doesn't really matter what date. We have some events, that started in June, and we have some events in August. Just because September is River Cleanup Month doesn't mean you're limited to that. And Source to Sea is for any event that's in the watershed of the Connecticut River watershed. So you can just, and what we're doing at Watersheds United is making sure that the events are on the radar of both groups. So you, as the event organizer, just choose the one that applies to you, and then we'll take care of the rest. So you either click, again, American Rivers or Source to Sea, and then that will bring you to their registration page, and you fill in your information about who the contact will be, the date, the time, the location, and any special instructions, like if you're going to wait, it will be rain or shine, but you'll cancel if there's thunder and lightning. If you're going to be walking or boating or both, you give them that information, and then that information will pop up on the map for the volunteer page. So I'm actually going to make this live for you. So here we are, and some of the information that Mary just covered is detailed in the handbooks, either by American Rivers or the Source to Sea. So you can click on those and get a really detailed layout of steps to follow, things to think about that you can refer to. And then also we have a link to the Bridgestone Tire program that Mary mentioned. And then also for the publicity, we have templates for you to use. So if you are more than welcome to create your own. However, if you want some help with that, these are PDFs and Word documents that you can edit to emphasize your details, so you can send those out. They're either to like posters or press releases that you can work with. And we right here, Mary mentioned that we have some funding. We have actually two pieces of good news, I guess. One is that this year we have funding for trash disposal. So once you drop your trash off at the transfer station and you get that receipt, you email it to us, and we're going to compile all of the receipts that we get, and we're going to reimburse each group equally based on the money that we have available and based on all of the submissions that we get. So we're hoping that will cover most, if not all of your costs, depending on how many people submit receipts. And that is courtesy of Waterwill and Keurig. So the other thing that we got this year for you as an event organizer, once you turn in your trash tally, you will be submitted into a raffle, and we got donations from Orvis, 3 gift cards for $100 each, and we will be raffling those off to the event organizers who submit their trash tally. So how do I get back to you? Here we go. So that's those are just, this is reiterating what I just said. And I also want to mention that we would love to have your photos as well. So when you distribute those to your volunteers and also media sources, if you just CC us on those, we can link to your Facebook page to promote that, and we will also use your photos in promoting future events, and as well as follow-up publicity. So we would love to be kept in the loop about that. So now I think we've covered everything that goes on. I'm going to open it up to questions. So if you want to, you guys are all unmuted. And we welcome anybody to chime in. Anne or Kelly, I Actually, I guess before we open it up, is there anything that you would like to mention?
This is Kelly down in Springfield, and I have to leave in about 6 or 7 minutes. So if there's any way I could just toss in a couple things real quick.
Sure. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys doing this. I think it's long overdue, and I hope it inspires a few other people to step up and be that somebody for their local river. I think that's great. One thing I've noticed over the years of doing river sweep down here in the Black River watershed is we need a hand washing station for people. So we usually have a couple of jugs of water and some of the antibacterial gel at the headquarters table. And then in recent years, it's come to my attention that people like to have a list or map of locations that they can go to, especially if they're first-timers. They show up and they're like, where do you need me? Well, we just sent a whole pack of Cub Scouts and the and the football team down to such and such a place, but the little stream at the playground could really use some help, and that way we know who's been sent where, and they don't come back all disappointed that it's all been cleaned up already. So this year I'm going to try doing a map. And just keep track of who's being sent where. And for a first-time event, that probably won't be necessary, but it could be helpful to keep track of where people are. And then the only other thing that we've been starting to do is having fun with our trash. We started doing the junk jam at the end of our event because we actually have somebody who grills up hot dogs for all our volunteers, and while we're waiting for that, we invite the kids to pick out a piece of trash. A local acoustic musician brings his guitar and some duct tape, and he helps them make instruments that they can bang around on for 10 or 15 minutes and actually try to play something. It's and again, that would depend on your neighbors and the noise level that you want to make and the trash that you have available. But it was kind of a hit with the kids. They really enjoyed it, and people bringing their trash back liked to hear. It was like they were being called in. Come back to headquarters. It's over here in case you forgot. They could actually hear it from half a mile away. But it was kind of a fun thing. So I just wanted to throw those out there as additional pieces people might want to consider.
That's great. Thank you, Kelly.
This is Ann Smith. A couple things. First of all, I really appreciate Mary and Katie doing this. Despite having done a number of cleanups, learned some new things. A couple things. What we just started doing last year, and we're doing again this year, is we're having what we call site captains, and these are individuals who scope out the sites in advance. Sort of know what trash is where, knows how they're going to deploy however many volunteers come to that site. And that's something that we found working well. Interestingly, we've found over the years that it's better to gather before rather than after. What we've found, at least with a lot of our volunteers, we typically do it on a Saturday morning, is that when they're done, they're tired, they're dirty, they're wet, and they want to get on with their day. So it's really interesting to me to hear, that. So honestly, we don't even try to get people back together at the end. And the other thing is we don't transport the trash to a central location. We will have, depending on how many actual sites we're doing, the trash will just be left at, 4 or 5 different sites, and will be picked up from there. And that's worked pretty well for us. So it's just another variation on the theme. And then lastly, something that we haven't done in a lot of years, in fact, it's been so long I haven't been directly involved with it with the Friends, is we are going to reinitiate the river junk art sculpture, working with Montpelier High School students. So a certain amount of the trash will be left, or debris will be left at the high school, and the art teacher is going to work with her students through the following week to craft sculptures that would then be on display at the high school campus, and then the city will come and take them away for us at a later date. So those are just sort of a few variations on the things that Mary and Kelly have already talked about.
Nice.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so depending on how big or how small your event is, you can tailor it to and the local resources. We definitely encourage you to talk to your transfer station or your municipality to see if they will support the trash disposal as well. So, and how their system is going to work, if we leave it at the spot or if you bring it in and pay for it right there.
Right.
So
I hate to do this, but I got to go. I didn't want to go without saying goodbye, and thank you guys again. This was awesome. This is Kelly signing off.
Great. Thanks, Kelly.
All right.
And just everybody knows that this is being recorded, and we'll have it on our website so that you can refer back to it with the links and the resources that we're providing. And so, and we'll put all of our emails on there too. Are there any questions from the other participants? You guys all ready?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
This is Amanda.
Hi.
So we want to know if there's, you talked about a trash tally. Is there a particular form that's in the resource section or something?
Oh, that's a really good question. So actually the trash tally will be through who you registered with. So if you've registered through Source to See, then you're going to, at the end of the event, you're going to submit your trash tally to them. And so I'll show you, I'll go to their website, and basically they give you two options if you want to register your event or if you want to submit your trash tally. So right here, you can register now for pre-events, or once you're done, you submit your trash tally. And American Rivers has the same thing, and both organizations are going to contact us with your number. So you don't have to worry about contacting us as well. You just have to go to whoever you registered with.
And just to confirm, Amanda, they do provide a form. So Source to See is a one-pager, and I just put it on a clipboard and start hash marking next to the tires or the Coke cans or whatever as they come in. So it's good to print out beforehand and bring with you, and then sort of guesstimate what you brought in and how much it weighs, that sort of thing. So it's actually kind of fun to tally it all up and see what kind of impacts you're having.
Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Great. Anyone else? Oh. There we go.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
So we're just getting around to doing this for the first time up here. One of the questions we have is in terms of accessibility of sites. Like if we're doing river cleanup, I know for this first year we were talking about just doing some things along municipally owned land. But when it's not municipally owned, do we need to get permissions from landowners to be able to clean up sections of property?
Yeah, and I'll answer that question sort of with a question, which is the White River has a sort of a series of formal and informal sites, and some of those sites are municipally owned and some are privately owned. And so we draw the line in terms of asking permission based on where we're cleaning up. So if there's a pull-off on the side of the road and the private landowner usually allows access, then for purposes of a river cleanup, we don't go out of our way to let them know about the cleanup. We just advertise that we're cleaning up public access sites. If you happen to know about a private landowner that, we're not talking about a pull-off on the side of the road or somewhere that could be sort of characterized as public access, then we do make sure that we ask permission if we know there's going to be a group of people on the site. Often what happens is that people start at a public access site and then they sort of wander down, as far as they want to go. And in the course of that, they're going across public or privately owned land, but that's hard to anticipate and therefore plan for. So again, I guess I'd turn it back to you, and if you happen to know, what the status is of that site, if it's already being used for public access, then again, the White River Partnership doesn't ask for permission. If it's not being used for access and there's a cleanup need, then we do interface with the landowner to make sure we have permission. Does that answer your question, Amanda?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
This is Ann. The other thing that I would add is that, we will launch from a variety of sites. Some are private, some are public. And most often with ours, people are actually in the river, in which case you're going past private property, but you're not on private property. So some of it, too, would depend on whether your folks are going to be, sort of walking the stream bed itself, or do you expect them to be on the banks?
Right, and the distinction there would be if they're on the banks, they might need to ask permission versus being in a public waterway, bopping along below the high water mark. That's publicly accessible regardless.
This is Ann Ingerson. We're working on a project up here on private land, and another factor is that sometimes the private landowners are really thankful that you're helping clean up, and they'll be willing to offer help of some kind, refreshments or whatever. So that can be helpful as well.
Great point.
Mm-hmm. Great. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you again for participating. I want to thank Mary for all the work that she's put in to this, and also Ann Smith and Kelly Sterrell, although Kelly had to leave. But again, we will have a link to this webinar and a link to the resources sent out today, and you can always email questions to watershedunited@gmail.com. And I will get those to the right person if I can't answer the question myself. So don't forget to register your event. And one thing actually I didn't cover were the resources actually that Source to Sea and American Rivers would provide you as an event organizer. So American Rivers will provide you with trash bags if you register your event 4 weeks in advance. So if you are at the end of September, you're in the clear. It's still worth an ask. They might be able to ship them if you have one closer to the beginning of September. Source to Sea will provide gloves, trash bags, and T-shirts for your group. So they have a little bit more swag. So those are things that you can get by registering as well. So just so that you know. Sorry, I forgot to mention that before. And all of this is on our website in detail, so definitely pore over that. And if you have any questions, contact us anytime. So thanks again.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.